Okay, at the last part of this chapter 8, so we will talk about relative molecular mass and formula mass. So, in previous chapters, we talk about relative atomic mass, relative isotopic mass. So here, after talking about some compounds or some bonds, we can talk about relative molecular mass and formula mass. So firstly, what is relative molecular mass? So from the definition, it may not be easy to you, but after you have do some calculation steps, then you can know them more clearly. So relative molecular mass is the sum of the relative atomic masses of all atoms in the molecule. So let me give you some example directly. For example, N2. This is the molecule N2. So firstly, you can find from the periodic table. So N is 14.0, the relative atomic mass. Then how about N2? So N2, there should be 2N. So it should be 14.2 times 2, or 14.0. Oh, sorry, it's 14.0 times 2. So it should be 28.0. All right? So it should be 28 after calculating. You can just directly calculate from the relative atomic mass found from the periodic table. Okay, then H2O, it should be 2H, so 2 times 1, and then 1 O, 16, so it should be 18. But I want to remind you that for relative molecular mass, there are no units like relative atomic mass. So because they are relative masses, there should be no unit. So don't add gram or kilogram for this. No unit, remember, no unit. And then for formula mass, it is the sum of relative atomic mass of all atoms in the formula unit. So what's the difference between relative molecular mass and formula mass? So relative molecular mass, it is just for molecules. So those substances that form molecules can use the terms relative molecular mass. What are molecules? It's a group of non-metal atoms. A group of non-metal atoms like CO2, H2O, CCl4. They are group of non-metal atoms without charges. Okay, group of non-metal atom without charges. So they are molecule. So we N2, H2O, CCl4 are all molecules. But for formula mass, it is applicable. So highlight applicable to all substances. All substances. Alright? And for relative molecular mass only apply to molecular substances. So we always use formula mass actually because it is for all. And for example, for carbonate, CO3 2 minus iron. So the formula mass should be 12. So 12 plus 16 times 3 because 3 oxygen here. And remember, for formula mass, it is for the charge. For the charge of the formula, it does not affect the formula mass. So you can negate the charge when you are calculating the formula mass. So it should be 12 plus 16 times 3. And then you can negate the charge. And then for magnesium sulfate, and so it is magnesium. And then sulfur 32.1, you can find from the periodic table, it is provided. And then O 16.0 times 4 because there are 4 oxygen. Then it's done. For aluminum sulfate, I want to talk about this. Aluminum, 2 aluminum, Al2, 2 aluminum. And then for sulfur, you should times 3. Because this 3 is for sulfur and 4 oxygen. So 32.1 times 3. And then 16 times 12 because 4 times 3 equals to 12. Alright? So Here, highlight, remember both the relative molecular mass and formula mass carry no units. Okay, so I want to make practice 8.7 your homework, okay? Your homework today is practice 8.7. So I will check like this time. I will check using the Google slide, and you need to take a pictures of it, okay? So that's the end of this lesson.